Basketball's always been community for me. It has created a language that we can speak even through the really hard times.
You, to me, are the definition of grit.
The fact that you have put all of your energy into something to make it in such a positive way, it's so amazing to listen.
I need to be able to feel like I am still me and still capable.
It's like it can feel uncomfortable where you're like, how do I act? What do I do? What is the right terminology?
There's a lot of fake it till you make it. When this happened, I knew that this was going to impact my family in such a massive way.
Yeah.
We don't love intros, so I'm just going to say it. It's 𝗖𝗹𝗶𝗰𝗀𝗀 𝗣𝗨𝗃𝗍.
I'm Jacki 𝗖𝗹𝗰𝗀𝗀.
And welcome to the Click Clack Podcast. Welcome back, everybody. We're so happy to be here today. So we're kind of in like a moody space right now. What's your vibe today, Jack? How are you
wish
feeling?
we had like hundreds of candles to like just set up around here because I feel really good in this space. But overall, I feel great. It is the latest interview we've ever done. I feel like it's like we're pushing like 10 p.m.
But I brought you snacks.
But I got go-go squeeze, so I'm good, literally.
Basically, anything my kids eat, I just bring for Jacki to make sure she's satiated because we don't want no hangry Jacki.
We've decided I have the palate of a child, which is fine. I'm here for it.
I mean, I do too because I eat all my kids' food constantly. Annie's mac and cheese, shout out to Annie's mac and cheese.
I feel like Haley's gonna end up hating me because I'm just gonna eat all her snacks.
Auntie Jackie's coming over.
She will not call me Auntie Jacki if I eat all her snacks.
She absolutely will not.
She won't.
But if you bring her snacks,
She'd
be here for that. She'd be here for that.
What about you? How are you feeling?
I'm feeling good. I also feel like we're in this moody vibe. Some candles would be cool. And it kind of made me think of a seance. Did you ever have a seance as a kid?
Nope.
Okay.
Tell me about your seances.
We had so many seances in my backyard on our trampoline.
I was just in a gym, so
I
let me know.
I feel as though I need to have a seance with you and Carla.
We have a lot of things on our bucket list.
We have so many things on our bucket list. So add that one.
What do you do at a seance?
I mean, you get your crystals, you light your candles. You could take it to a scary place and like call on the spirits if you're into that.
Not into it. Not at all.
I've been watching The Vampire Diaries again, and they have a seance, and I was like, oh my God, and like the windows open and the lights flare, and I'm like, oh my God, that happened. But we can also just like get spiritual and, talk about manifesting things. So either way.
I like that.
Either way.
We can keep it positive.
We can get some crystals.
All right. I'm down. Let's do it.
Yeah.
I think Carla would be super on
like
board
an
for
energy crystal, a healing crystal.
Okay.
I don't know. There's a great crystal store in Portland. We should hit it up.
Is it on 23rd?
No, it's in like downtown Portland. And Nick and I walked by and we were like, oh my God, we've never seen so many crystals. It was like epic.
Okay, I love that. We got to go.
Okay, we're going to get some crystals. So we have a really, really special guest today. I could not feel more honored that she would be willing to come on our podcast and tell her story. This is not someone you know. She is a mother. She's a coach. She's a wheelchair basketball player and played basketball most of her life. She has
great form, might I add.
I was like, please teach me everything you know.
Literally.
And she has been through a lot. And she is going to open up on our podcast today for the first time, which is truly an honor for us that she would trust us with her story. So we're just very excited to have her come on, and we think she's going to inspire a lot of people. Amy, welcome to Click Clack. We're so happy to have you on. We had so much fun with you in the beginning because and then we kept saying, we got to save it for the pod. So it was really fun. We got to know you. So everyone, this is Amy Thomsen. She is an incredible basketball player, a coach, and she's a mom to 2 teenage kids going through sport. So we have a lot to pick her brain on. But welcome to Click Clack.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
I think we can just start off tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm born and raised in Oregon. I lived in Nebraska for a little while, so I feel some allegiance to, the Cornhuskers, who got their first bowl game this year, so that was amazing. And amazing basketball, girls basketball, and volleyball. So big fan of the Cornhuskers, random side note.
Can I just say something about the Cornhuskers? Played them in Nebraska. We got smashed.
And did the fans show up?
They kicked our ass. The fans were some of the worst fans to play against.
Yeah. I have 3 kids, actually. I know we've spoken of my teenagers, but I also have she's not technically mine, but she's mine, stepdaughter who is 25. So I have a 25-year-old. She just turned 25 like 2 days ago, which is insane to me. And then I have my son who's 15, and I have a daughter who's 13.
Amy, did you play sports growing up?
It's kind of funny. So I'm the youngest of three. I had two older brothers, and they are musicians. My dad was and is an amazing organist, still, very active in his church. We flew to Singapore to watch my dad play like an unveiling. Like they invited him. Like he is a very accomplished musician. So my family has a long history of being musicians. So my brothers were very musical, not very sporty. And along comes me, youngest and the girl, and I think they expected me to be like the princess one, and I was like, I want to play soccer, I want to play G.I. Joe, and there was one Christmas where literally everything I got was Barbie. And now actually after the Barbie movie I'm like, I'm kind of okay with it, but back then I was
Were you tearing like the limbs
mad.
apart?
Oh man, we had
Cutting their hair.
all of mine were weird Barbie. Every single one of my Barbies was weird Barbie, and they would like merge with the G.I. Joes and we just all the things. And so
It's like Sid from Toy Story. You know how he takes all the my kids were like, when we watched that.
So I was never super drawn to music. Like I can rock karaoke with the best of them. Like back in the day.
What's your karaoke song?
My karaoke song was "Here I Go Again" by Whitesnake. And I had the high kick down. Like I could karaoke. So I can hold a tune when necessary. I was in the band because it's just what we did in my family. I was my brothers are really good. So the gene, they got it. They weren't the greatest athletes, but they had a lot of fun with it. I was super drawn to sport, and so I did all the things. My mom actually coached my soccer team and my t-ball team. 3rd grade is when I discovered basketball. But soccer was my thing. I was all in on soccer, but I played basketball. And there was some switch that happened somewhere along in middle school. And this is what I've always said about basketball, is that it's a slow burn sport. It doesn't really get as fun till you get really good, or the skills kick in, if that makes sense. Soccer, you put the ball at the feet, you're going one direction, the ball is going in that same direction. Whereas basketball, you're moving this way, the ball's moving this way.
Yeah.
And then you want to get it up here. Right. So, and then there's a billion rules. So it can be complicated as a kid. So it wasn't a thing that I loved until it's I got it, until clicked. And so somewhere around in the later middle schools, basketball kind of became the thing that I was like, I really love this. But I played soccer all the way through as well. Softball, I think I made it through 1 year of high school. And I was like, nope, I'm good. I'm going to go go soccer and basketball. But basketball was my heart. I love basketball. I loved being a kid and going to camp and idolizing the counselors. So that then by the time it was my turn, I could not wait to work at the basketball camps and be the counselor for the little kids and make those connections for just the full community around the game of basketball.
Did you play in high school?
I played through high school, and then I think there is an element that I really am trying to manage with my kids, but that you can just burn out.
Yeah.
I was part of a AAU program with a coach that actually, I think I'm not sure if he's in jail or not in jail anymore, but it was the Wild West of predatory, coaches. And I was on a team where there was several players who I was just this naive basketball, woo! I had no idea any of it was going on. And in fact, it wasn't until 10 years later when he went to jail finally for what he had been doing for years to people.
This is so crazy you're saying this. I think this happens more than we think, because I was on 2 separate AAU teams where an instance happened on each team.
It happened on my high school team as well.
Yeah.
So I've always now, my kids are not going to travel without really good chaperones, without all the things. And now I feel like we talk about it more.
Yeah.
So it's more open to watch out for this. Whereas it was just happened. And I don't even know, because it was luckily I was not someone that it happened to. And I did know about one incident in high school, but the AAU one, which was very drawn out and very hard on these girls, all I knew is that those girls were very emotional, and I couldn't quite figure out why.
Yeah.
It made sense once I was an adult and I looked back with the knowledge I had.
Was it multiple girls or?
Yes.
Okay.
Within our same team, and the assistant coach. It was bad. So by the time I got to college, I had the intention of playing, and I actually went to the first couple practices. I had said to the coach at the college that my coaching style and my learning style is very positive, very uplifting, very let's bring people together to succeed. A lot of coaches, basketball is a sport where there's only 5 that get to play at a time.
Yeah.
So it's kind of cutthroat. So certain coaching styles is you pit people against each other to earn these spots.
Yeah.
That can be counterproductive, because now you don't want to play together. You don't want to pass to that person. You don't want that person to succeed. And I don't like that. Like, I'm a let's build it up and let's build this team. I think I was talking to one of your producers about how she gets 1 million assists. Like, that was her thing when she was playing. And I was like, that's my favorite thing. Because that's like the most selfless act on a team, is to get your other teammates to score. And that to me is like the best in the world. And so I went to college, was planning on playing, talked to the coach about, this is my style. I've experienced this like really intense AAU. I just want to have fun. I want this to be like I want this to be something I enjoy. Like, I'm not going to get a scholarship. And I go to like the first 3 practices, and I'm already she's starting to kind of pit me against somebody that I was buddies with. And I'm like, I don't want this. Yeah. You know, my whole identity up to this point has been like Amy, the basketball player. And now I was in college. I'd been in college for like a couple months, and I was like, I'm just Amy here. This is kind of cool. And so I was like, you know what? I just want to be me for a while and see what that feels like, not Amy, the basketball player. So I didn't play, and I played intramural, which was like playing rec again. It was like playing basketball for the fun of the basketball with no stress about it. It's just that feeling of being a kid and playing versus being like, oh my gosh, what if I mess up? What if I do this? Oh my gosh, I got to fight against her. Oh, I don't want her to do well. Like, all the things that are constantly going in your head. That's just playing ball. It's fun.
I think it's amazing how inviting you were to Amy, not the basketball player, because I feel like most players are so afraid of like what they are without tag to the sport. You know? So it's like the opposite effect for you.
Totally.
Really cool.
It was fun. And I think it's because I went in, and it was, it's a small liberal arts college, NAIA, so we just did open gyms. I'd already kind of established myself outside of the basketball. So it was really easy to say, you know what? I like how it is right now. Yeah. And I want to just keep going with this for a while.
You know what's really interesting? I recently reconnected with a friend who's a tech recruiter, and she went through something very similar to you. And this is like really registering for me, which was she was this person, the soccer player, growing up. That's what she did. She loved it. And when she got to college, she said, I felt like if I continued, I would only be that. I would never be seen of like other things. And she said, and the way she copes with that now as an adult is fascinating to me, because she also now plays recreationally and like has a really positive relationship with the sport. But I think it takes a lot of self-awareness to figure that out. But my other theory is that I think women generally feel like we get put into a bucket and we can be more than just our sport, but society has not let us do that, has not helped us figure out how to do that. And that's why, again, like, we want to be able to tell these stories so you can see many dimensions of women around sport, because we are more than one thing.
Right.
It doesn't matter what that thing is, right?
Absolutely.
And and to your point, it's like, then the flip side is it's hard to cope when you are like, that is your thing. Yeah. Because then what happens when your career ends?
Right.
Right.
Because, I mean, Jacki could tell you that's a big
you go through a bit of an identity crisis, but I think the way you looked at it is really cool. Yeah. And I don't hear that very often. So I love that.
You've talked a little bit about your past in basketball and how you were the sports girly with 2 brothers that maybe weren't, which I love that dynamic. I think it
was kind of fun.
It's so great, because like we want girls to have choice, like whatever they want to do. Is there a moment you can remember where like you were watching sport and it was just like that was transformative for you?
Gosh, it can be as recent as like a few months ago, to be honest. So, you get word that Caitlin Clark's going to go first in the draft, and that's going to be Indiana. So I'm just sitting there going, I wonder when Seattle plays Indiana. And literally that day, they'd just gone on sale to buy, there was a pre-sale. I go on Reddit, I find a code to get access to this thing. So we go to this game, and it's sold out. We've got these amazing, their accessibility seats are really cool. Like, you actually, a lot of places you go, Moda Center's fine, but it's like, you're just kind of on a ledge. You're over a thing. Where there, the Climate Pledge Arena has, you're at a, not a bar, they're not serving anything, but you have a table. You have this whole space overlooking the bowl, and it's packed, filled. And I'm looking around, and everybody's a lot of people are there because Caitlin Clark's there, but they're also cheering for Seattle. And it was this moment where I look over at, my daughter, who at this point is 12, and her friend, and I'm watching women's sports in a completely packed arena where they're into it. They are into it. And I teared up. I was like, this is amazing. If you had asked me 20 years ago even, so at the beginning of the WNBA, 30 years ago, I guess, if this would have been possible, I'd be like, nope. Yeah. Mm-mm. And now, I mean, we got WNBA League Pass. We were watching it all season. You know, there was just something switched over. I was like, this is amazing. I love watching this. And it changes it when the crowd is into it. When there are people that are like, you know, that when they bring that crowd energy Jewel Lloyd got smashed in the face and like had one eye blacked out, and she's then knocking down, like she had like 4 more threes after she was one-eyed. Like it was just one of those games where you're like, this is amazing, and we're here a part of this. As far as sport as a kid, it just was always a part of me. I think if anything, I almost was like, you know, and this is a weird thing to say, but I was like, what's wrong with me? Like I'm the youngest and I'm the girl and I don't like the Barbies. I like the ball. Like, and it always there was a bit of self-consciousness about that difference of being drawn to this thing that is not historically meant for me at that time. Like, you know, like I said, I got the Barbie things. They wanted me to do the music, and it's not like anyone was forcing me. My mom was coaching me. So like they were very encouraging, but just like I always did feel kind of like I was doing something wrong because I was pursuing this other thing. Like now, not even remotely the case. But it's just always been a part of my life. So as a kid, I don't know if there was any kind of transformative thing. Honestly, that was that moment at that stadium with everyone cheering for women's sport.
I just wanted to comment on one thing you both said, which is exactly why I'm so excited for what we're doing here, which is like we are in a transformative moment. And I always said, you know, growing up, I've also talked about this before on the podcast, but I didn't have like girl bobbleheads. I had girl Barbies and girl princesses and American Girl dolls, and they were, you know, whatever, like cool. I think about how you felt as a little girl, where you're like, something's wrong with me. And that's because there wasn't representation. Like there's starting to be. So for me, raising a 6-year-old girl right now, I hope she never has that feeling. Because it's just normal to have choice, and you don't fit into one bucket. So for me, like I love seeing you both light up around that, because I want that for my daughter. I want her to just try everything and see women out there getting to be fierce and then going to show up in the real world however they want and be celebrated for those choices. So that was like a cool moment.
I feel like I had a little bit of a different experience, because I kind of tie it to like you're a product of your environment. So for me, when I was growing up, I was only in like a sports bubble. So I didn't know anything else. You know, my dad had me and my sister in every single sport, and that was like the reality for me. So even like playing with the boys, and like all the boys were my friends my entire life, that was just like normal to me. So I didn't really experience what you guys experience of like, because I don't know if your parents influenced you at all like to play sport or not. But to feel like that, how you did, like, oh, I'm like, something must be wrong with me. Like, I don't like, you know, why don't I like Barbies, and like, why am I so drawn to sport? Like that to me is really like fascinating, because for me, like, I can't resonate with that at all.
Yeah. Well, that's great though.
Yeah.
I'm glad you didn't. It could have been self-inflicted. I don't know. Cause I was very encouraged to do it. Like my parents, like I said, my mom coached forever. Took me everywhere, drove me around, you know, to all the things you have to drive to, paid all the money to all the people you have to pay the money to.
Yeah.
So I think it's just because I think it was probably being a kid and different than my family, and kind of a little bit different than everyone else, because I was always really sporty.
Yeah, I mean, I think environment plays a really big role, you know, like, because I remember from like kindergarten through 6th grade, I was a tomboy. Like I did not like dresses. I was like very just like, I would cover up. I was just very, you know, like a little self-conscious coming into my body, trying to figure it all out. And I feel like I was made fun of for that.
Yeah.
And I have very vivid memories of being bullied for like how I was. Like I was a little chubby. I guess I can relate to you in that sense. Is it the beginning of me being very self-conscious about my body? Is that why I feel like I'm gravitating to this? And it's like we want girls to just show up and be them. Yeah. Like why do we even have to choose?
Right.
Yeah.
So that's kind of a fascinating juxtaposition though, Jack, for you.
And I was just sitting here listening to both of you, and I'm just that's interesting.
Amy, take us back, and I know this story is very raw for you, so you let us know to the degree that you're comfortable sharing. We know your injury is pretty recent in your life, so can you kind of take us back and just tell us, you know, like what happened after?
Yeah. So it was right before New Year's Eve of last year. So 2023 leading into 2024. Okay. And I had a bulging disc in my back, and it had ruptured, and it was severely pinching a nerve that went down my right leg. It was like literally someone cutting open my body, where I, like I told you guys earlier, I've had 2 kids. One was a very drawn out, but, traditional birth, and the other one was an emergency C-section with a uterine infection. So I have felt pain. That was not even close to how much pain I was in with this nerve. My daughter saw me in a lot of pain, and I always feel bad that she had to see that, because that had to have been scary for her to see someone who she probably thinks is infallible in so much pain. But I go, and it's new, and they're like, yep, they do an MRI, and they say, yep, we need to do the surgery. So I have it on January 2nd, and I go into the surgery in the morning, and, it's a discectomy. It's very common. I have actually had one before when I was pregnant with my daughter. So I wasn't even remotely worried about it. I was going to feel better. So sweet, do it. I wake up after the surgery, and I just remember turning to the nurse, or that was kind of checking on me, and I was like, I can't feel my feet. She's like, oh, it's probably the anesthesia. And I'm like, yeah, okay. And the day goes on, and I'm like, I can't feel my feet. I can't feel my calves. I can do like one motion, which is like, I immediately called the flippers. So I was like, I can do the flippers. I can pull my feet up, which is like the front part of your calf, or your front part of your shin. But honestly, I had been in so much pain that I was still so relieved that I didn't feel any pain, that I didn't dawn on me that I was not feeling anything. And so as the days went on, my husband is like, he recognizes the significance before I do. I'm one of those people, it's all going to be fine. Everything's going to be fine. Like, it's just always been how I am. Like, it's going to work out. It's going to be fine. And I just kept kind of saying that. And there'd be a lot of different reasons for what happened. Nobody knew, so we didn't know the prognosis. The nurses start talking about, well, you need to go to another hospital. And that's when I lost it. And I was like, I want to go home. I just remember like sobbing and saying, I just want to go home. I just want to go home. And they were saying, we can't do that. You will get injured. You will hurt yourself if you go home, because I couldn't walk. I couldn't do anything. But I just kept thinking, if I just get home, I'm going to be fine. If I'm home, I'll be fine. But as the days went on, and I'm at the hospital, and it's one of those dark hospital rooms where you're like looking at another brick wall, you're like, oh, this is awful.
Yeah.
All the family, all the support, all the friends. So all of that was great. But I just like, all of a sudden was just like really, really, really sad. I can't go home. I don't want to hurt myself. I've already have this image of my daughter seeing me in so much pain. I don't want to do something where I injure myself and she can't help me. Or my son's big enough. He could help me with something, but she's, 12 at that point. I'm like absolutely devastated at this point. It's starting to set in that this is not right. And it's almost been a week. It's taken that long for my brain to finally click over. But it's like, I feel like that's how crazy things happen and people adjust. Is like, you just, first off, kind of deny it. And then you're like, okay, this is where we are now. Now this is it. Things happen. Like, it's just really kind of funny. But that Tuesday morning, I remember getting a phone call. They're like, they have a bed for you. Can you go? And I'm like, yeah. My husband comes, and I get to like leave the hospital with him. I'm obviously in the wheelchair. They load me into his truck. And I kind of lost it again then, because I was like, I just want to go home. But we had to like sign a thing that said we were not going to go home. Like, because a lot of people just take off, but that's, because I don't want to go to another hospital. So I go to the inpatient rehab, and I'm just like, let's get to work, please, let's work out. I want to get moving. And so I kind of came in with a bang there too.
At this point, did you realize how severe your condition was?
I did and I didn't. I still kind of thought it was just going to go away.
Yeah.
Just give it a little bit of time. And a lot of the people even said it could just be a nerve, like it's just injured, and it's just going to take time. There was a lot of this thing with give it a year was kind of a lot of what people said. Was give it a year. Nerves grow back really slowly, it's like millimeters a day. And so to get all the way down to your feet, that takes a really long time. But they're like, you're already improving. If you have any bit of motion, because I come out, I can't do the clamshell, I can't do any of the things, but I have just a wisp of strength in that. And they're like, if you just even have that wisp, if you can access them, physical therapy can help get you stronger.
Yeah.
That's a weird thing to try to explain to somebody, but it felt like camp. Like I'm in a room, I've got a roommate, they bring me my food, I go off and I exercise. Compared to where I was, it was a relief to be there. There were a lot of people that did not want to be there. I had one of my roommates was a 25-year-old stroke victim, and she could not speak. So her life suddenly changed. Like she went from, absolutely regular 25-year-old life to not to being nonverbal, except for when she sang. She could sing. So she it was the weirdest thing, but she had a really hard time. Like she didn't want to be there, and kind of fought the process. I was like, I'm in because this is what's going to get me out me out of here and get me back to life. So I left there after a couple of weeks and immediately started doing physical therapy. I started at a neuro place for a handful of weeks, but it's really hard to get into neuro rehab. I moved over and was at Meridian Park. And now I work at it's a more sports-based one that I'm at, which I like because I just need the athlete perspective, versus the hospital feeling. I needed the hospital style for significant portion, but now I'm like, okay, I want to be let's treat me like an athlete.
Yeah.
The probably lowest day of the journey, it was a bad one, was a couple weeks after I got home. My neurosurgeon wanted me to get a nerve conduction test, and I didn't really know what it was, but I was like, yep, let's do it. And she said it would be able to potentially tell us what is, what could come back. But I get up that morning and I have managed at this point to kind of figure out how to, like Buzz Lightyear, fall gracefully. You know what I mean? So I kind of will go between my counters standing, because I can lean against things. And that morning, I was overly confident as I'm talking to my daughter. So again, it's her that bears the brunt of this. And I fall. And they gave us all the warnings in the world at rehab about falling. And it's just again, you always think nothing's going to happen to you. I've already proven to myself that things can go wrong, but I'm still me and I'm still it's all good. It'll be fine. I fell and I immediately laying on the ground. My daughter's looking at me hey, Elle, can you bring me my phone? And I'm just trying to stay super calm. And I call John. I'm like, John, I just fell and I can't move my arm. And he's like, what's happening? I'm like, I don't know, but I felt I don't even feel my arm. I can't feel anything. And he's like, did you dislocate it? I was like, I don't know, just a second. And I kind of just go, ooh, and it pops in. And as soon as it's back in, then it's excruciating. And I'm like, yeah, I was like, I dislocated it. He's like, okay, do you need me? And I'm like, no, my dad is on his way over to take me to this nerve conduction test. And Ellie's like, oh my gosh, what is happening? Sees this again. I get this nerve conduction test, and what it is they poke you with these needles and then try to get you to move things. And then they listen for the sound of the muscles or the nerves doing it. So they're getting the results in real time, which I was not expecting, right? So she's like, just facially emoting how awful everything's showing. And I'm watching, and then I'm slowly starting to process oh my God, this is it. This is it for me. This is it for me. I've just dislocated my shoulder. I got this weird sling, and this is it for me. And I just start sobbing as I say to her, and she's like, nope, nothing here. No, nothing. Nope. And I'm like, so I go out, and my dad is in this waiting room, and I just start sobbing. And my dad is like, what's wrong? I was like, this is it. This is it for me. This is my life now. I don't know what at this point, I don't even know that I can drive. I can drive, which is great now. But at the time, I was like, I have to rely on everyone to do everything for me now for the rest of my life. I never told my kids. There was a lot of, but we'll be doing this by summer. And I knew at this point, no, we're not. And so it's there were so many hard moments where I had to pretend yeah, that'll be awesome.
Yeah.
And just wait, and know that as time continues, it's just going to settle in. I don't need to just rip off a Band-Aid for them too and be because they don't understand. As much as, they're teenagers and they're older, it's still a lot for them to try to take in. That was definitely the lowest point of all of this. But again, I think maybe it was a couple weeks after that where I was showed up at the open gym and started playing basketball. And it was just such a good feeling to go do something. and to feel like myself doing something, because so much of what I'm doing just doesn't feel like me. Like that just doesn't feel right. Yeah. And the wheelchair basketball, as much as it was weird and trying to like maneuver this go-kart, it's low to the ground and the basket's up there, and you know, like, and I'm still dealing with my dislocated shoulder. It felt right to me, and it felt like, okay, this is what I need to do now. Like until I can get everything squared away in my head, this keeps me grounded. This keeps me with a purpose. This keeps me with like a activity. Like I am active. I'm hardcore. Like I still have calluses on my hand because I've been a kettlebell weight trainer or not. I don't teach it, but like I like train with kettlebells. I did for like 10 years. I mean, it's been like a year and a half and they're still here because like that's the kind of like athlete and activity that I have always done. So then to just be like in the chair just wasn't something I could do, if that makes sense. I just couldn't do it. So I found, the wheelchair basketball and getting into the gym. And that actually, like when I first joined 24-Hour Fitness, I was like, the guy wanted to give me a tour of everything. Like, I'm like, nope. I was like, show me the basketball court. So when I started going to 24-Hour Fitness, it's like the machines are just built. I just hop in and I'm lifting, so it's been really good. Like that gym has been really helpful for just like being physically active, not just with basketball, but like working out the other muscles that I need to work out because I have to compensate. And I have to use things different than I used to. And so just keeping strong and doing those things has been really, really important. And also for my mental health, because I have to work out.
Shout out to 24-Hour Fitness. Like truly, I mean, that was one of my questions for you, was really around how has it been for you outside of sport? Yeah. But in like, real world facilities, right? Or going to restaurants. Like, do you feel the world has made progress? I mean, or, how could we improve?
I don't know what it was before. That's the thing. I never paid attention. Now I do. And my kids, I think both are entertained, but also very embarrassed because just the other night, we're over at the Lake Ridge LO basketball game and it's crowded. I park in the handicapped spot. When I come out, someone has legit parked in like the zebra stripes that are between handicapped spots. Those stripes, that section serves a purpose. That's how I access with my wheelchair. I have to go around there. You've just blocked my access. So many people park in front of ramps. So it's like the things are there, but people don't realize what they're doing. Like they'll park in front of my ramp and I'm like, I have my son who can help me get up over a curb. There are people that are also like really good at wheelchairs. Like the first time I went to 24-Hour Fitness, this dude who was like the captain of the Paralympic surf team. Wow. He was a cool dude. And he just like hops a wheelie over the curb. I'm like, whoa, that was
You'll
cool.
get there.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. It was pretty amazing. But it's like when you have these things blocked, if there's people that can't do that or don't have a husband or a son or a daughter to help get over something, what are they going to do? And so that stuff drives me nuts.
That's a great reminder.
That's that zebra stripe parking. I'm like, don't do that. Just think for a second. What am I doing here? Am I am I parking here? Am I blocking a ramp? Where just kind of looking around. Because otherwise I've, for the most part, everything has been, what I would expect. Yeah. It's more, the facilities usually are set up. So I haven't had a problem other than inconsiderate. Yeah. Pretty much parking.
Yeah. Well, it's a good reminder because we're all just like, I mean, we talked about this, but like in our little rabbit holes, right? And we're just like so busy. And so it's like, you got to take a moment to step back and realize the world is not all about you.
Oh, and that saying how I always embarrass my kids. I always leave notes.
I love that. I'm so here for that, Amy.
Put that on their windshield. And
good.
They're like, oh, and I'm like, put it on the windshield. They need to know this is not a parking spot.
My husband actually had this notepad that was called "You're an Asshole Driver." Yes. And it was like to write notes to like. I'll cricket that for you. I'll cricket that. It drives
them crazy, but I also know they get it. Like you got I was like, what if they didn't have you to help? Like there's people that this is terrible. They need to know. Yeah. And I will tell them.
I love that.
Amy, you're incredible. I think my biggest takeaway from listening to you is your strength, first and foremost, because not only do you have to be strong for yourself, but you have to be strong for your family too. And I can't imagine, how heavy that could feel on you at times when you want to be sad or times when you want to feel, bad for yourself. Mm-hmm. Putting on, that front or fake it to make it persona is just like mind-blowing to me.
I would have to say that as a mother, I am so inspired by you.
But don't you think you do the same thing? To me, it's like everyone's like, oh
I'd
man,
like to think so.
that's so amazing. I'm like, yeah, but that was the only option. I don't know what my other option was.
No, I think as a mother or a caregiver,
Yeah.
you just build this extra armor.
Yeah.
Because your life is not all about you anymore.
Right.
And it's about like helping shape these little humans into good humans, right? Like that's literally what I want to do. And I think you have inspired me to really like live life to the fullest and really take an optimistic outlook, which I like to believe that I do that, but like you just are like really inspiring me around that. And also like as a parent, it's like what a joy to see a parent persevere through something like that. And it's important for our kids to see hard things and to feel hard things and to sit with those things, but we're there to support them too.
Yeah.
And I think what you've described is nothing short than Herculean to me. You could write a book, Amy. No, really, like when you feel ready, you should really consider that because you matter. Your story matters. And the way you have handled it is just truly remarkable.
Yeah.
Can you just be my mom mentor? I think that's what I need. I think I need that.
All right.
I think I need that.
All right.
Because being a mom is hard.
It's
It's wonderful. It's beautiful.
Okay, but going back to wheelchair basketball, could you talk a little bit about the game of wheelchair basketball and like maybe some things that most people wouldn't know about it?
Yeah. So we talked about no basketball. And like when I left playing in college, I played rec or through like intramural. And then I immediately started coaching at the local YMCA. So I've coached forever. My summer jobs were always coaching. And so then, I played rec forever and then I had kids and I was like, yes. And I met my husband, John, and he had I think when I met Carmen, she was 7 and we got married when she was 8. And I was like, when can I start coaching her basketball? Like what's happening? So I started coaching her in 3rd grade and we were in this goofy league where there was literally only one other team and they were supposed to be made even and they clearly weren't, and I don't know anything, so I get like the bad news bears of girls 3rd grade basketball where they would reset the score every halftime and we had to do that every single week, and I'm like giant pregnant with my son and I just kept being like looking over this other coach like, come on, throw me a bone. So her experience in basketball was not fantastic right out of the gate, but it was fun because I immediately was like, the second I get to coach, I want to coach more. I know basketball. I started coaching my kids. Like I've done a ton of it. And, my life takes a very significant turn basically a year ago right now. And I'm in the inpatient rehab for a while. And the people keep telling me, and it's the ice storm. It's like that. Remember that crazy ice storm last year? Where
Apocalypse.
Yeah. So I'm stuck at Good Sam's inpatient rehab, which is, by the way, amazing place. I had like this corner room with this hilarious roommate. I'm not going to say her name, but was super funny. She constantly grounded me for what she was going through based on what I was going through, and we're still in touch. And I really enjoy her. So anyway, there was the rehab people kept talking about this woman who was very involved in wheelchair basketball because like, you go to an inpatient rehab, you've got all varieties of neurological injuries and types of people. I stood out in that group being more of an athlete. Like I wanted to go work out. Like, please take me down to physical therapy. Like I want to work hard. And so like, I got to know a lot of physical therapists. They were like, you have to meet this one woman. She's very involved in wheelchair basketball. And in my head, it all of a sudden was like, that is something I could do.
Yeah.
Like when I leave, I'm going to try that. Okay. And I so unfortunately the ice storm happens. She's never able to actually get in. So I thought I was like going to miss this opportunity, but I reached out to somebody through the organization. I was like, how do I do this? And her name is Laura Riddler. She's amazing. She works with Adaptive Sports Northwest. And she's like, hey, as soon as you get the green light from your doctor, come out to an open gym. So that's, I get my green light and I literally go that week. And that's when I go to that little, where I play with 2 other people before we go to March Madness. But I get in the chair. And I'm used to like at that point, I'm still in like a really big, heavy hospital chair that's almost impossible to maneuver. Like they're just really, really hard. So it's like a whole effort to get me out there. And my husband was such a, like anything. He was like, yes, let's do that. Let's do that. I'll help you. Let me do this. Let me do that. And I get in this chair and it's like a go-kart. I mean, I'm just like spinning everywhere.
Wow.
Like they're, they have the angled wheels, like they're really light and they just go. And I'm a basketball player. I know what I'm doing, right? So I like roll up. I have the ball in my lap, which is we were talking about. You never want to do in wheelchair basketball because the second you put the ball in your lap, I mean, I'm just gonna take it from you, right? So, but I'm doing this and I'm rolling down and I go up to try to make a shot and I get like halfway to the hoop because it's like when you're playing stand-up basketball, it's an entire body, you know. Absolutely. That's why people are always yelling, use your legs. Like okay, like that's not an option. Yeah. And you're lower. Hoop is still the same height. You are now lower and you only have this upper part, you know?
I imagine it's a lot of core.
It's a lot of core if you have it.
Yeah.
There are a lot of people that don't have the core. So, you'll see that they'll have more of a supportive spot on their chair that actually holds them in. Okay. So then they just have this part. Wow. For me, I do have core. And so I do have that ability to kind of, squeeze real hard. But I go up to like, take a shot. Like I said, it just like airballed and was like barely to the, probably halfway to 2/3 to the hoop. Yeah. And I was like, oh, wow. And, I just started playing. I'm just going to have fun, figure it out. But it's very challenging. And over on the side, Laura is talking to my husband saying, yeah, it's really interesting when you get people coming in from stand-up. They think they're going to know what they're doing. And then, it's just too hard. And so I take those kind of things as a challenge.
Yeah.
Like,
bring it.
So it's like I came to the sport with like the basketball knowledge and like and I really was kind of fun because I hadn't played since I coached so much. So like my entire mindset and view of the game has changed because I now see it from the perspective of a coach, but I'm playing.
I can totally relate to that.
Right?
Yeah.
So I was like, I'm going to figure this out. And the thing about wheelchair basketball is it's like, it's all your hands. So you have to know how to maneuver the chair while maneuvering the basketball and controlling everything. So I got a membership at 24 Hour Fitness and just started going to the gym like almost every day and just learning how to use a chair, learning how to get strong enough to make a basket, learning how to like dribble and not have it. Because like I said, the wheels are angled. So you go to dribble, you're bouncing off your chair all the time. It's been a learning curve and very humbling because like, I know what I'm doing. And then you get there. And so like, there's a lot of things that are counterintuitive. Like if you've played stand-up forever and you learn defense, you always stand between your person and your basket. Yeah. You kind of have an eye on the ball. You kind of, the old school, teach the kids, point, do the pistol thing. Well, and you never turn your back on your player.
Right.
Well, wheelchair basketball, you play with your back to your player because you're pointing where you're going to go. So let's say the person goes by you and you're it's so hard to explain without the chairs. But if I'm facing my person I'm guarding and they go that way, I have to completely turn my chair around to try to catch them. So you actually play with your person behind you, kind of with your eyes. So, and then you also don't put your hands up because you need them on your chair for going, different directions.
Just really quick question. So if your man does not have the ball and they're in the corner, okay, and then ball's here, and you're defending this person, your back is turned.
Well, you kind of have an angle at that point. Like if you're on ball, they always say never don't point your toes at your player. Yeah. Like if you're in kind of a help, you're in the spot that you think, you want to angle to where you think that you will be going. Okay. So you're not, you do probably still have your back to that person.
Okay, got it.
And pointing, because a lot of times you are just racing them and blocking their path to the basket. Yeah.
Is there ever because you see a lot of collisions of players, right? And then you add in the chair that's, I imagine like carbon fiber, different materials. Like, is there ever like the clashing of the chairs? Like, how do you kind of maneuver
they
around
clash all the time and you just get stuck. Like that's one of the moves is like, and I'm learning all these things that you want to put your axle to their caster. So, so really quick language of a wheelchair. These little wheels are the casters. This is your axle, right? Now, if I had my actual basketball chair, it'd be a lot easier to explain. But if I put my axle in, let's say that's your caster right here, and I put it right here and I get it just slightly in front, you're kind of stuck. Yeah. Like I have you locked up. So a lot of it's just holding real tight and not letting the person go by. So and these are all things I'm learning. Like tactics. I just learned that in Alabama, a couple weeks ago, where the coach was like, "This is what you got to do." Because like every game, I'm always like, "Okay, I want a thing I'm going to work on." Like this last tournament, I was like, "I want to rebound." It's never been my thing. I've always been like a perimeter player. I'm going to wait here. I'll get the long rebound, but I'll get back on defense. And I was like, you know what? I'm one of the taller people on my team. I have a little bit more mobility than my team. I could be really helpful as a rebounder. And that's just what I did. And it was super fun because I was like, oh my gosh, why have I not been doing this forever? Like just like ripping that and like fighting. And I got this look on my face that I've seen on my daughter. Like I felt the face that I see on my daughter when she plays, because she's fierce. Like she is so fierce to the point where sometimes I'm like, all right, don't hurt somebody. Don't hurt anybody. You know, and I felt that she has. And I'm like, oh, she got that from me. That's
She
fun.
plays volleyball though, right?
No, she's a basketball player.
She plays basketball.
Oh yeah,
You
no.
said she's 12?
She's 13.
13.
So she's a 7th grader. She's played since, you know, the Little Hoopers in kindergarten all the way up to now where they do the tournaments. And
Does she have dreams of going pro?
she wants to be in the WNBA.
Okay.
You know, and she wants to go to USC, which is hilarious because I did not know you went to USC, but she wants to go to like she's got it all planned out.
Well, you got a mentor over here.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Does she have a favorite player?
she does. It's Paige. She
I mean,
loves.
that's
Paige.
awesome.
I mean,
Yeah.
and she like it's kind of funny. She even kind of looks like Paige.
Really?
There was this picture of Paige. I don't know, a couple weeks ago, and she had like a hoodie up. She was doing something, and I was like scrolling through Instagram, and I'm like, Ellie's not on social. And then I was like, oh my gosh. So then I sent it to John, my husband, and he's like, what? And he's like, oh my gosh. I even sent it to Ellie. She was like, I don't remember being that photo. Like she looks so much like her. Like it's really funny. She's not. You know,
Doppelganger.
doesn't actually have the height.
Yeah.
So that could be that could pose a challenge. But yeah, when we were at the Moda Center to do the halftime of the thing, we're over with the team. And like I said, I don't know anybody, and I'm just like, wee, happy to be here. You know, and oh my gosh, what is her name? She played on UConn. She had the yellow.
She got drafted to Washington.
Yes. Yeah.
Like
So-
Edwards.
Yes, Aaliyah
Edwards.
Edwards. She walks by and Ellie's like, yeah. And I was like, oh yeah, do you want me to say something? She's like, and she's like, do you think Paige might be here? And in my head, I'm like, I can't even imagine. It's not their game.
Yeah.
And like 10 minutes later, Paige Beckers just starts walking down the hallway, and I'm like, screw this. I'm like, hey, hi. You know, like my daughter is like a huge fan. Is it okay if we get a photo? And she's like, oh, totally. So we get a photo, and Ellie's like starstruck. And then someone was like, oh, we got to get you in there. So then I'm just like I am like shit-eating grin. Like I'm fangirling so hard.
You're that is like super mom status of the year right there.
Oh, it was amazing. And
That's-
so Paige Beckers is probably both of our favorite players, just because like for me, so much of the sport now has become my connections with my kids. And so like she brings so much joy to Ellie. And then that moment we had down under the tunnel, it's like, and I love the way she plays. Like she's just like an amazing player, but also like does the full package. Selfless player, you know? I just really enjoy that about her. So I don't even know.
It's a really cool moment.
That is such a cool moment.
It was really fun. I've got the photo. I can show you guys later.
Yeah.
Oh my
wonderful.
gosh.
Yeah.
Wow.
Basketball specifically, sports, but basketball specifically, because that's what my kids focus on. It has created a language that we can speak even through the really hard times. And so my son, who you met, who's a full teen boy, he loves Jokic on the Nuggets, loves him. And so when Wiley is having a hard time, we just talk Nuggets. We just talk NBA basketball. So we got NBA League Pass, and we just talk basketball. And I won't know anything that's going on in life, but we always talk basketball. And so the other day, Saturday night, as we all know, I'm driving home from a Forest Grove tournament basketball game. It's like 9:40, I think. We can probably all look at our clocks and remember the exact moment. And he calls me, and he has never called me to chat. Like, he's 15. Who calls his mom to chat, right? And he's like, Mom, they traded Luka for Anthony Davis. And I was like, what? He's like, Mom, no, I don't. I think maybe he got hacked. He's some guy. He's not watching anymore. He's like Shams. And I'm like, yeah, no, he's for real. He's like the new guy. You got to listen to him. I'm like, what? And he called to chat, like my 15-year-old, about the Luka Anthony Davis trade.
Just wanted your thoughts on
He
it.
just wanted to talk about it. I'm sorry. Just wanted to talk about it. And I was like, this is amazing.
Yeah.
You know? And so it's like, I know. So that's the thing about basketball. It's like, yeah, there's the connecting with the playing. I connect with my kids by coaching them and cheering them on, especially my daughter, because I went on with her and her group like the most. But then we talk about other elements too, like not our playing, not his playing, not how he did in his game. Like he wants to talk, like we're going to talk about, you know, Jokic, and we're going to talk about the trade. We're going to talk about what he, you know, 𝗖𝗹𝗰𝗀𝗀, like we talk about all that. And it's a language we can constantly speak that, you know, Otherwise, sometimes I don't know what to say to him. You know, I don't.
So you're saying I need to really learn my NBA stats?
Well, learn whatever it is that interests your kids.
No, I love
you know
that.
what I
That's the
mean? Like
greatest
learn those
advice.
things so that you can communicate with, like when other things are shitty, you can still talk about that.
But I think the learning there is the common language.
The common language.
Like that's the learning. And
Whether
showing
it's
kids you're
basketball, whether it's
invested.
anything, it's whatever. Like if they're interested in something, learn about it.
Yeah.
So you can talk about it.
I love that.
Well, I actually have one follow-up question because like what really strikes me is your knowledge of the game and just both love and knowledge of the game. And you're talking about having to kind of transition skills because it's a completely different game in a chair, in the wheelchair.
I mean, but also the same. Like all the fouls, the 3 and the keys, like all the same rules. There's no rules that like don't exist. But there are several rules that they've added to the game to make it even like how fouls work. Like there's inbounding rules. There's things like that. But otherwise, like it is exactly the game. It's just like the strategy and the mechanics are so different.
Yeah, the strategy and mechanics. So when you were transitioning into learning about the strategy and mechanics, and it sounds like you were very driven, like going and just like, you know, just getting started, right?
Yeah.
That's always the hardest part is like just getting started. When you were looking for resources for learning about some of these techniques and strategies, was it easy for you to find or like how did you
Well, I had lucked out because of this woman, Laura, who connected me with Adaptive Sports Northwest, and they're an amazing organization. Like they do all these different sports, like anything I wanted to do, they would provide me access to it. And I remember one time one of the women was like, do you like hiking? We got this hiking chair. Do you want to give this hiking chair a try? And I was like, okay. And so I tried it. I did not like it. But it was like there's a lot of resources if you look for them. You know, and I lucked out because I was connected with Laura to immediately kind of immediately jump into this and have the resources I need. She sent me YouTube videos, links, like told me where to go look and watch things online.
Fantastic.
So I felt super supported and that there was space, but it's also, you do have to go find those groups that do it. And they are very visible. You know, they had, you know, connections to the inpatient rehab where I was. But there's also that, you know, there's a couple different people that come to wheelchair basketball. They're the people that played stand-up basketball and are now in a chair. There are people who have been in a wheelchair their whole life and they've played, you know, their version of Little Hoopers in a wheelchair. And then there's like the people in the middle who just kind of like, I want to try something new. And so, you know, and there's different, you know, there's a Seattle Adaptive Sports, there's our Adaptive Sports Northwest, there's Bridge City. And, you know, there's a couple, there's a handful of resources for basketball. Like it's definitely the most popular of like the, or the most visible maybe of the para sports. You know, you watch on like the Olympics, everybody's watching those.
Yeah.
So I actually felt pretty supported, like to the point where I was like, anything I want, they're going to help me with. And especially, to be honest, I think being a woman, like there's not a lot of us. Like you take, you know, women who want to play basketball when they're adults just for fun.
Yeah.
And then you have to have the group that's also in the wheelchair. Like there's just not a lot of us. And so the team that I play on is actually the Pacific Northwest. So half the team is from Seattle, Tacoma. Then there's a handful of us down here and we meet every other weekend in every other spot. So it's like Seattle, 2 weeks later, Portland. We just got some gym space in Centralia, so that should hopefully make it a little bit easier. But yeah, there's not a lot of us. So I think when I showed up, they're like, oh my gosh, what can we do for you? You know, and I was like super like I'm in, like, what do I need to do?
That really, I think that's what has really struck me through just getting to know you better is you have such a go-getter attitude. And I can't even imagine what it would be like to go through what you've gone through and to just be like, okay, I'm going to go do this. I'm going to try this. And like, I think that could be incredibly inspirational to a lot of people.
One of my kids, you know, because they're teenagers, said something that like kind of struck me and like made me tear up. And it was about the basketball. And I was like, this is what has gotten me through this year. And that it honestly is. And it's like focusing my attention in this keeps me from thinking too hard about how different my life has become. I oftentimes, when people are like, how you doing? Like, what you know? I'm like, I've kind of adapted like the Dory from Finding Nemo mentality of like, just keep swimming, and just keep swimming. I had to do the whole song.
We're singing a lot on the pod today. I love it. Let's keep going with this.
The basketball, it's like, it gave me like that, like it keeps me present and grounded and not thinking too much about like, what, not that I shouldn't think about what happened, because I do need to do that. I've still not totally like processed it all, and I need to do that. But it's just given me a place to focus attention and look at a silver lining here, because I haven't been able to play stand-up basketball in a long time. Like my life has been, coaching, which has been fantastic. But like, holy moly, I'm out on the court now, and I'm like going out at the halftime of Blazer games and like having a great time, flying to Alabama,
Unreal.
It's kind of amazing. And so, yes, this sucks. Do I wish that I was in a chair? Not even a little bit.
Yeah.
But I am. And so, hey, like this basketball specifically has been such a big part of my life. I'm the president of our youth basketball program for Lake Oswego. We started a rec program. We have the tournaments. Like, I'm very involved in basketball. So why not try this other thing? And I get to be the one on the court.
Yeah, I think your perspective and your outlook, given the circumstance, is what is so inspiring to listen to. And that is what I was going to bring this up and you beat me to it, but just like, wow, just like the fact that you have kind of put all of your energy into something to make it in such a positive way is really just, it's so amazing to listen. And I think that is what we really want to highlight on this episode, is just tell us more about like, because someone who played sports, throughout your entire life, and then going through what you went through, and then now putting your energy into wheelchair basketball, like that is a lot to unpack.
Yeah.
And I think that like that is what like we want the listener to hear, because your story is so inspiring, and it's inspired us.
Yeah.
And I know it's going to inspire everyone that's listening. And I hope that you are,
Epic.
literally incredible.
Epic.
Well, thank you.
Just like, I mean, I hate to tie it back to myself, but like I think about what I went through in basketball, the injuries that I went through in basketball, and just like all the times where I just felt like, oh my gosh, poor me. Like it couldn't get any worse.
Yeah.
And then I hear your story, and it's just so humbling. How do you prefer people to engage around you?
Honestly, like I don't have a thing, because I'm new to the chair. Like I don't even know, like sometimes I'm worried I say the wrong thing, because now I'm around a lot of people with different ability levels, like different injury levels. Some people just born with a spinal disease, and so I'm often worried, like, am I saying or doing, because I'm new and I haven't been around a lot of people with disabilities before, just because I just never, it was just because I never crossed paths. And now I love it. Like my first tournament was out in Spokane at this parasport thing, and you go into this gym, and it's like the Beaverton Hoop, where there's like 8 courts, right?
Yeah.
And there are 3-year-olds, 90-year-olds, a billion people all zipping around in their chairs. And it was like, oh my God, I love this.
Yeah.
Because it's like, I go places now, and, I love kids, but there's a lot of,
Right. Yeah. Right.
you get looked at, and you're like, and I get it. Like I'm doing something different than they are. So they're curious. They're not, it's malicious. It's just curiosity.
Yeah.
But I went in there, and I was just one of the many people in chairs.
Yeah.
And it felt so amazing, because it's just like being around other people just like me. Yeah, we're all different. We've all got different reasons for why we're in these chairs. But it's like that, being around, like, so that I'm learning with them, like what is like, someone told me, I was like, we were talking, and he goes, you haven't asked me about my injury. And I'm like, honestly, I don't know what the protocol is. Like I'm learning along with the people that are going through it with me. So it's like, as I learn things, I'm like, oh, this is how you say it. Oh, this is how you do it. Like I had a friend was on Reddit, and she's like, sent me an article that was like, how to not be an asshole to your friend in a wheelchair. And she's like, do these apply to you? And I'm like, yes. Like, don't grab my chair. Don't touch my chair. Like, and it's really funny. Like it's a universal thing with people in wheelchairs. Don't touch them.
Got it.
Like people want to come help. Don't touch my chair.
Yeah.
It's like if I just came over and lifted you up and placed you somewhere.
Well,
don't do that.
I think the first natural thing is like to cater.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's like, you could also just be like, fuck off. I'm fine.
Well, it's super funny. So in inpatient rehab, they're like, do it yourself.
Literally.
Like I had a sock on the edge of a bed, and I just needed it. And the lady just sat there chatting as I'm like trying to get this
she's
sock.
like, you got this.
Whereas like everybody else in the universe is like, oh, let me get that sock for you.
Yeah.
But they're like, you've got to figure out how to do things for yourself. So that to me, like, and I'm a person that like
I like that.
wants to do things for myself.
Yeah.
And it's been a battle. and challenge with like my family and friends who just want to help. And it's always in the best intention. They're not trying to help because they like anything other than they want to help. They're nice, supportive people. And so it's a balance with me to like those moments when to allow that and when to be like, I got it.
Yeah.
You know, and it's hard. And I think my family probably thinks I err on the side too much of I got it. But I also need to feel that autonomy.
Totally.
I need to be able to feel like I am still me and still capable.
Yeah.
I will say it's really funny. I have this tendency to let people help me at Costco. And I know this is super random, but the joy I bring to people when I just let them help me at Costco when I don't even need really that much help. There's this cart that's like 4 wheelchairs, but they do not keep track of these things or like keep good care of these things. So it's really hard to maneuver. It's supposed to like fit. So one day I was like, I wonder if I just used like the big ass cart, you know, like I'm pretty good at my chair now. Like, wonder if I can do this. So now I roll around Costco with the full size thing and I zip and I push and then I like ride it. And I like literally have the greatest, like I have, and people like, I mean, I've not been to a Costco yet where like a woman in her like 60s or 70s is like, oh dear, it is, you just really, I just love watching what you're doing. Like they're always so sweet, but there are times when like there's something and I'm like fumbling and they're like, can I help you? And I'm like, yes, please.
Absolutely.
And it's like, you know, everybody loves to help.
Yeah.
Like I know like we could have a billion different political beliefs and all the things. Like I had this dude in like a giant truck with mud and MAGA and all the things. And I was crossing and he stopped and he's like, do you need anything? And I'm like, wow, this was very unexpected. But it's like, there's this inherent nature to help people. And so I have to allow that sometimes. And at Costco, I just give in because it just cracks me up. Like I get joy from it because of their reactions. And then they get joy because they're like, I just helped the lady in the wheelchair, you know, like it just makes them feel good. But like when it's I'm harder on my family. Like I don't let them help me. And there's an element, you know, it's like how you get the shitty part of your kids. Like they behave well out in public when you're not around, but they bring home the garbage for you. I do
You're like,
that.
what am I doing wrong?
I do that to my family, and I'm aware of it. I try really hard not to, but it's like I'm only human, and you're my place where I can just be garbage, and you're gonna let me anyway. But the engagement part is like I'm learning as I go. I know that for me, there's really other than don't touch my chair, I'm good. Like and ask me, talk to me. I might be in a mood one day where I'm like, you know, like I'm not gonna give. Like I had a woman randomly who I didn't even know, but apparently she knew me. She's like, oh my God, what happened?
Oh.
And that was the wrong way to do it. So that just blanket, that's wrong. And I just was like, yeah, life happens. And I just ended it with that. I was like, I don't need to talk. I don't need to tell you this. Like, this is not, I don't know you this. Like your curiosity is not for me. Like, I don't know you because you're curious. So like, but I would say like most people are really, you know, I'm very, like I know a lot of people in this town and very active in the basketball community. So everybody's been really supportive. I don't think anyone's intentionally trying to be hurtful in the things they say. That one comment was just weird. So I'm just learning and I share as I go. Like I honestly would tell my husband, okay, this is what you're supposed to do. Apparently you're supposed to say, is it okay if I ask you about your injury?
Okay.
So I know that much.
Yeah, like just to give it a little bit of a qualifier.
Is it okay if I ask you? And you can be like, you know what? No, I don't feel like talking about it. Or sure.
That makes sense. What advice would you give like other people that are going through different adversities in their life? Not necessarily, you know, your similar situation, but just adversity in general.
Yeah. I mean, I would say for me, like find a community. I mean, and I know that can be hard, like to find it. I kind of fell into it because I already had a really strong interest in this. But like when it comes to something like this, the, you know, mobility challenges and things like that, their Adaptive Sports Northwest is just like fantastic. And then there's so many different pockets. Like they have tennis, they have sit down volleyball, they have goalball, they have all the things you saw in the Paralympics. You know, they help facilitate all that. And then Bridge City Adaptive started sled hockey. You know, so they have sled hockey and they also have basketball. So it's like, there's so many resources. So for me, it was like finding my people again. So it's like, as I said, I have this group of friends that I get together with every year. Some of them are still local. Our daughters all play in basketball. Like they're in different grade levels, but we run into each other at tournaments. Basketball's always been community for me. It was as a kid, it was who I sat with at lunch, you know, so it's like you have built-in friends when you play these sports. you sit with at lunch, they were carried through all the way. And now it's kind of fun because then you get this other community of parents of the kids playing the sport. So then you become friends with them. And then I'm active in, the youth sports space as a leader in it. So it just was a natural place for me to go. Mm-hmm. I don't know what to like for people that aren't drawn to necessarily sport. It's just find something and get outside.
Yeah.
Like just get outside, whether that's outside and then back inside to a gym, or if it's like outside, there's hiking. Like they have a hiking club where they use those chairs, or you can use your own chair and it's paved. Like there's a million things.
That's awesome.
So it's like for me, activity is key because that keeps your brain like the more you just like kind of sit inward and stew. Like that's just not a lot good can come from stewing.
Another theme that's kind of coming out for me is just mental health. Like I've struggled with mental health in different aspects of my life, and it's a really pervasive problem for a lot of people, and it's been so stigmatized, especially in sport, right? We're just in the last, couple of years even with what we saw Simone Biles do publicly, and so now I think the whole world is saying like, wow, sport is more than just the physicality, the biomechanics. It's also your mind.
Yeah.
And I think what you have gone through and just some of the advice you've given, like I think could help people across the board who are struggling to figure out like how to find community, find a movement journey, like sit with hard things, and cope with those things. This is more of a comment than a question, but I just like that's really stood out to me of like as a theme of this episode around how you're handling, your mental health, and also just appreciate how open you've been with like every day is not perfect, right? Like we all have bad days. I can't imagine some of the days you've been through recently. So I just, thank you so much for just being so open about your mental health journey alone, because it's such an important topic that we talk a lot about.
There's a lot of fake it till you make it. And to be honest,
My motto.
when this happened, I knew that this was going to impact my family in such a massive way.
Yeah.
We're very active. Over the summer before this happened, we went on a 5-day backpack out in the strawberries. Beautiful. Go there if you ever can. So I knew this was going to be hugely impactful for my family. So for a lot of it, it was just, no, it's all good. We're fine. Just keep, it's like the coach Amy is popping in, like we're in a game where we're losing, but we're going to keep fighting.
Keep going,
And I think that kind of fake it till you make it, the make it is a lot more than it was when I first started faking it, if that makes sense. Like, and I do feel like this, I am myself. I'm not faking it. But there are times when I'm like, I know for my family that I need to just keeping us moving forward, because I don't want to hold them back. I don't want their lives to, luckily my husband and my son have been doing a lot of activities that, my daughter's not super interested in anyway. And so, would I like to go 100 billion%? But, it's still working out where they're able to do some things. But there is an element of just, until it clicks in, just keep trying,
You, to me, are the definition of grit, the word grit. Like, I'm so inspired. I have so much in common too. I'm just like, this is so amazing. Like what you've done for your community. A lot of us who are not around, like you mentioned it, like you're not around people in your community who have disabilities. It's like, it can feel uncomfortable where you're like, how do I act? What do I do? What is the right terminology? And I think like even your education to us and to our listeners around, here's what I'm comfortable with, here's what I'm not comfortable with. Like it's all about asking the right way and just having empathy.
Right.
It's so crazy because I didn't really know what to expect when meeting you. I've heard such incredible things about you, but I think maybe I had a somewhat of an expectation of I was a little cautious of just how to approach you. But when I saw you in the parking lot and just oh my gosh, this woman is confident. And it was just I didn't really expect that, if I'm gonna be honest.
Yes.
So it was a beautiful thing to see. And I think just again, just being with you for the last couple of hours, just seeing how you are, it's just holy shit.
Can we be friends forever?
Yes.
I'm
and the answer is yes.
That was
A lot to unpack in the best way.
in the best way. Like I honestly think I'm going to be replaying that interview in my head all night long.
Yeah, same. I'm not going to be able to sleep tonight.
She is the definition of grit.
Grit, strength, Perseverance, resilience,
positivity.
the list goes on.
I mean, I wish more people would live their lives like her.
Same.
Like, I mean, she's going to inspire me to think a lot about my decisions and kind of my outlook on things, you
Me
know?
too.
Because I try to be really positive, but I can also really get in my head and be really self-deprecating.
Yeah.
So I'm super inspired. We're going to sit with that for a little while, but we're going to move into our favorite section we all know you love, which is our slam dunks and airballs of the week. Why don't you kick us off, Jack?
Okay, so my slam dunk and my airball are one thing. Let's talk a little bit about the Luka Doncic trade. Did his name correctly, right? Doncic?
Girl,
I believe I did.
I don't know shit about the NBA, so don't look at me.
So I say an airball and I say a slam dunk. So my slam dunk being, I'm attending the game on the 20th, the Blazer game versus the Lakers, and it just made it that much more interesting. Being able to see Luka in person. So I'm super excited about that. Obviously, the trade for the Lakers was epic. I don't know how well the trade was for the other team. You can maybe touch on that a little bit. I know you have an analogy I think we talked about.
So I don't know that much about like how the trades work or who goes where. Like I just see the news, like sound bites. And I'm learning a ton from you just as it pertains to the WNBA,
Right.
which I don't know how similar it is to the NBA. They feel kind of different in how they do it, just like the strategy and the methodology. But there was a couple really funny memes where I was like, oh, I get it. And it was, this one killed me. For all you non-sports girlies out there, I was like, I get it. Which is, it's like if Destiny's Child traded Beyonce to TLC for Chili. And I was like,
Dead.
I'm actually
That
deceased.
just really puts things into perspective.
I mean, I love my girl Chili, please. Like,
Yeah.
TLC, are you kidding me? Obsessed.
100%.
But, I mean, Beyonce, like,
Queen bee.
Queen Bee, you know?
Enough said.
Enough said. So,
Yeah.
that really put it into perspective for me. I was like, I get it.
Yeah, love that for you. So I tie my airball to the same situation because I saw a little clip that Devin Booker spoke about, who's also one of my favorite players in the NBA, one of my fashion is. I also think he's like the finest man I've ever seen in my life.
Click, clack. I
Like,
saw him live
OMG.
at the Blazer game, and I was like, okay.
I wanted to go to that game just for him.
I know. I was like, you should have come.
Yeah. But he got really real in one of his interviews and just saying like, basically nobody's safe, you know? And like, it's so true and definitely something that I can relate to. And it translates a lot to what is going on the W side right now as well. Just like people don't have control on where they are within their teams. Like you could be such a superstar for that team and you can put in your blood, your sweat and your tears for that team. And the next year you can be traded, you know?
That's
and
wild.
it's an unfortunate situation. It's unfortunate for the game, but it's definitely a part of the game.
I just couldn't imagine being a player in that situation. Because I even think about my own life and how, you know, with Nick having to go to Utah for residency and how it was just this like, I mean, it was literally decided by a system, right? And it was such a surprise. And, you know, obviously we had prepared for that for a long time because it was kind of the steps of being in medicine. I know this is probably a terrible example to relate, but I do, I couldn't imagine being a player where like one day you're with this team for so long, and the next, like, you're traded.
Yeah.
It's like you have to uproot your whole life.
Yeah.
Your you know, that you have kids. Like, I just can't imagine how stressful that would be.
Yeah. I mean,
I mean,
definitely.
they do get paid millions of dollars.
Yeah,
So
they get
it's like,
paid a lot
you
for
know.
sure. But it's just, you know, it's just like any situation.
Yeah.
It's change and you have to deal with that. And you
Yeah,
don't really have a
it's really
say so
hard.
in it. So
Yeah, that's really interesting.
yeah.
Another one that actually Amy, our guest, told me that I was like, that's hilarious. She said, I think it was 𝗖𝗹𝗰𝗀𝗀 said, look at like the W's been getting all this like, you know, buzz about like this player's going here and this player's going there. And then I think it was 𝗖𝗹𝗰𝗀𝗀 who was like, and then the NBA comes in and is like, hold my beer. I was like, that
Literally,
is-
that was
Also,
a good
can we
one.
just talk about 𝗖𝗹𝗰𝗀𝗀 and Caitlin Clark's on 2-2? Sorry,
Right.
now I'm getting into my slam dunks.
Let's hear it.
But like, whoa. Okay, I'll talk about that a little bit more. So my slam dunks, I actually have two. I'm so sorry because I just thought
Don't
of
say
it.
sorry. Go for it.
I want to celebrate the jersey retiring on February 2nd, 2-2 of two of the best players in the league, which is 𝗖𝗹𝗰𝗀𝗀 and Caitlin Clark. I just thought it was such a celebration of women that day, and just seeing like the fans and like just watching 𝗖𝗹𝗰𝗀𝗀 in particular like break down and talk about her career and just you could tell she was just so moved.
Yeah.
And so I just thought it was really epic. It also just showed a lot of community to me because, you know, we talk about this a lot, but community in sport is everything, I think, especially for women. So to have this day where like both epic women are being celebrated, there was no competition.
Right.
It was just like, let's celebrate the GOATs, both of them, right? And I thought that was just like a cool moment for women in sport, for women.
Totally. I'm with you on that. I think Asia's 28, and I think she's done just about everything that you need to do in order to be considered like the greatest player of all time. She's got a statue. Her jersey was retired. You know, her signature shoe is about to come out. She has multiple championships. She's been an MVP. Like, the list goes on.
Yeah.
I mean, she's just been absolutely incredible for the women's game. And then Caitlin Clark, like, super happy for her as well, and getting her jersey retired and getting her flowers. She's done so much for the game.
Yeah.
We could sit here and have a whole episode on what she's done for the game, but yeah, just really, really awesome moments.
Just also like think about the impact that moment's gonna have on little girls seeing that moment. Like, I'm a grown woman, you know, and I'm like, whoa, you know, I'm like analyzing their fashion to their speeches to the people around that, you know, all the things, right? And just like, but I'm mature. I'm a woman. Or an older woman now, not older, but you know what I mean. But
Oh, you're a millennial. You're young.
I'm a millennial.
Let's go.
I can go up or down in terms of age, so we're good. We're right in the middle. But just seeing just thinking about little girls' reaction to that, it just like got me like very excited. So that was one of my first slam dunk. My second, I'm sorry, I have to talk about the Grammys for a second. I watched the whole thing with Haley. She told her dad this morning. She's like, my husband. She was like, Dad, I watched a lot of TV last night with Mom, and I was like, girl, you're trying to tell on me? What's going on here? But we were dancing. Like, it was such a cool moment as a parent because I love music. I like the Grammys is, you know, award season is kind of like, you know, it's my thing. I love the fashion. I love the moments, the stories. And I don't know, I feel like this was the first Grammys I've watched in a while where I was like seriously engaged from start to finish. And they did such a beautiful job, really, because they didn't even know if the show was going to happen because of the wildfires in LA.
Yeah.
And they just did such a good job, like really bringing the show back to that constantly. Like the support of the community. They did a commercial break where they celebrated local businesses and gave airtime to local businesses in LA. So you could donate and learn about their businesses. And then they had celebrities like come on with the small business owners. I'm like, this is the advertising and marketing we need right now. Yeah. Okay. That is what I want to see. I also want to celebrate a couple of moments. Beyonce winning Country Album of the Year. I'm sorry. Cowboy Carter was one of my favorite albums of 2024. I listened to that in my car on repeat. Is probably this is probably going to be controversial to say. I think it might be because she has so many great albums. It's like probably one of my favorite albums. And
that is a big statement.
Just like her ability to like evolve across genres it makes her the GOAT of music. Yeah. The other person, I'm sorry, Lady Gaga debuted her new song Abracadabra on repeat in my car. Okay. It is giving Telephone Gaga, but American Horror Story. And I'm like, my sister and I were like, Abracadabra, like just going on and on and on. It was so amazing. So cheers to Gaga for just continuing to reinvent herself.
Girl, say less.
Say less.
Epic.
So everybody, please go watch the music video, Abracadabra. I will probably remake it as a TikTok video in some fashion. So that's all I have to say about my slam dunks.
Really good slam dunks.
They were pretty good, I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, fire.
Okay, let's just quickly go into our airballs. My airball is Nick working night shifts. It's been really hard on our family this week. And he just is exhausted and drained, and I just like shout out to physicians that just give their lives for their community and like are basically owls, and it sucks. Yeah. They just deserve so much better, but that's what they do.
I think watching your family dynamic and how you manage that with Nick and your family is really inspiring, you know, to future parents like myself. I think you guys just have an incredible system in how you work and operate. He works nights. You get to do certain things. He gets to do certain things. Like, I just think it really works. But shout out to Nick. Like, he's such a hard worker, such a great guy. You guys are really just doing it. So.
Thanks, girl. Appreciate that. We gotta go home.
It's time for sleep.
You're gonna need a nap. Like, are you okay to drive?
See.
All right.
I'll let you know when I get home.
Okay. I'll be texting you. Okay, good night. Love y'all.
Good night. Later, clackers.